Hey everybody, Rachel here from Rachthestamper.com, and today I'm going to show you how to create another slate case from the catalog. This is a super adorable card from the Dino Roar suite, and I know you guys are probably getting tired of it, but I promise we'll be coming to an end with this soon. We really won't, but I'll tell you that anyway. So what I did was I kind of sort of cased this little card down here, but I changed this one up to make it a happy birthday instead of a look who's hatched. So what we'll do is when we make the second card, we will make it back into look who's hatched, but we'll change it up a little bit. So I added these little pieces here, which crazily enough are part of this denim ribbon. So what I did was, I will show you exactly what I did, but I shredded it. So I have these little extra pieces. And then I kind of found you can also do it with the other ribbon. This is actually the peacock ribbon. So this is the old olive pretty peacocks. It's kind of like two different colors. So if you cut the one out, you can get these really soft pieces. So I'll show you that. We'll kind of mix both of them in when we do our second card. I did do a little bit of pre-cutting. So I have 2 of the eggs. And these are actually the same egg, you just cut it twice. So if you get the Dino Roar suite, you get the Dino Days stamp set. I also, of course, misplaced my dies. They're around here somewhere, I'll find them. The dies come with it. You also get these absolutely adorable, so I did buy the suite. The other day I wasn't sure. You get these little embellishments. You do get this really cute denim ribbon, which is super versatile. You get that. You get the designer series paper, which also I used. So that is this paper that's in the background. And then I kind of did a combination of this because I've been interchanging these a lot with Wiggle Worm. Now Wiggle Worm is another stamp set that also has a bundle. So this has a stamp set and a die. If you buy both together, you do save 10%. And I find that these two work really well together. First of all, because of the sentiments, but also just like the little pieces you can add on. So if you see here when I did the happy birthday, this is actually from Wiggle Worm. And that little grass and the 2 bugs. And then on the inside, I added just the grass again at the bottom with some dinosaur footprints. And then I just put the little stones, which could kind of be stones, but I just did it kind of like as a little bit of an embellishment to the inside to make it more fun. So the other thing is you could make this so it is not attached. I did attach mine. They're popped up on dimensionals. So you could make it so they could hinge it if you wanted to. But what I did was I cut out with the dies just to save a little bit of time. I cut this out, and actually I cut this out of the shimmery white paper, so it is a little bit more sturdy. So this is just the same die. There's only one, but when you put them together, it will close, which is really cool. And I'm going to show you what I did with that. And what we're going to do is we're going to make this one. Oh, here's the dies. I had them put on the side. So you get this egg here, and then you can cut it twice to make a whole egg if you like. And then there's a couple other little pieces in here that I want to share with you. The cool thing about the dinosaurs are on the paper, which I'll just give you a peek of that real quick. You can save some time if you'd like, and you could pre-cut your dinosaurs. So you could use something that's already in here. You could even use the pterodactyl if you wanted to. We could use that one this time. So we could do the pterodactyl. There's lots of things that you can use the dies because they do fit. So we'll do the little pterodactyl this time. You could use the brontosaurus, as Fred Flintstone called it. I believe that's called of course now I can't remember the name of it, Apatosaurus. There you go. There's a T-Rex. I'm not quite sure what this little guy is, but there's lots of really fun stuff. There is another one if you want to do baby cards. So this part is what we're going to use today. So it's a bunch of cracked eggs. Looks like they hatched, which is super cute. So let me move these over. We're going to do this one instead on Pineapple Punch. I'm sorry, I just have to scooch my camera just for a second. Sorry about that. Okay, so we're going to do a base of Pineapple Punch, and then we have this little piece already cut down here. So this is 4 by 5 1/4. I have a little scrap of Mango Melody because I think I'm going to back it, whatever I do, I'm going to back it to that. I have my egg pieces already cut out. Have a couple little pieces here for the sentiment so we can get started. So again, we will cut the pterodactyl, so we'll make that part a little bit simpler, but we'll do that afterwards. So what I'm going to do to start is I'm going to show you, if you guys remember recently I had talked about my old paper piercer. So it has this little hook here which kind of prohibits it from actually poking a hole. So quite a while back, I talked to Stampin' Up! And they gave me a new one. So I do have a newer one. This one pokes holes much better. So you can just kind of put this down, and poke a hole just like this. So if you have this, you could use that. Another thing you could use if you wanted to, if you have one of these, I did in fact get mine on Amazon because I hadn't gotten them when Stampin' Up! Had it, but you could also use a crocodile to punch your holes with. So you would want to use the smaller hole. I believe you have 3/16 or 1/8. So 1/8 is clearly the smaller. So you can always go in if you felt like you needed to have a bigger one and you could punch a hole with that. But I found that the paper piercer worked pretty well, and I believe there's also a end on the take your pick tool. I don't usually use that one very much, but you can also poke a hole with that. I usually use my spatula more than anything on my take your pick tool. So I'm just going to poke another hole kind of right here, and you can wiggle it if you feel like you need to make it a little bit bigger, but quite honestly, this tiny hole works out pretty well. So we have metallic brads. There's a lot of different ones in here. I used gold on one. They used, when they showed it, they used silver. So we could use silver, but instead, let's use copper because I haven't used that one yet. So we'll just use a copper brad for that. So what I'm going to do ahead of time is I'm going to just stamp just a little bit. So I will take the little dots, which I already have out because I used these before. So I'm just going to take the little dots, and I did this earlier in Pineapple Punch. So on this one, I'll do it a little bit different. So we'll just do a little switch up here. So we'll do Mango Melody, and I'm just going to do, I just re-inked this, so it's probably super bright. So we'll just do just a couple. That's good enough for that. So we'll do Mango Melody. I'm going to keep that out because we might use that for something else. And then I have just a little sponge here. So just for a little added something, I'm going to just very, very lightly with my sponge dauber do a little granny apple green, and I mean like super light, and just kind of add a little green. Just like that. And I also sponged the edge earlier, so I'll just do a little green on the edge of this one, because I'm sure pterodactyl eggs have a little bit of green in them. That's what I learned from all my dinosaur research, extensive research that I've done, which is a joke, just in case. So just sponge the edge, just to give that a little bit of depth. If you see, I did sponge the edge here. I used the same color that I sponged with. So this was Pineapple Punch and Seaside Spray. So then all you're going to do is you're going to put your brad through your top hole. And then you're going to put it through your bottom hole. Just like that. And then just kind of spread it. There you go. So just like that. So what we'll do is for this one, we'll just leave this one, this part we'll leave open. That way, if whoever gets this card wants to fool with it a little bit, they certainly could. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put, unless I put them away, and I'm fairly certain I didn't, there you do. I'm going to put some dimensionals onto the back here. So I kind of went with 5. So we did 5. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and stamp whatever our sentiment is going to be. And I'm going to do, I'll do the Look Who's Hatched. We'll just switch this card up a little bit. So we'll do Look Who's Hatched. And I'm going to do it again in Mango Melody. Just put that on here. So Look Who's Hatched. Clearly you need to press this down a little bit. I re-inked it, but I didn't really like smudge it down, so it still needs a little bit of love. Now for this one here, what I did was I used the Timeless Label Punch, so we could use that again, but instead I'm going to just cut this out, and I'm going to flag the ends. Sometimes I do better by just flagging instead of cutting in the middle, so that's what I'm going to go for this time. And I'm going to trim this down just a hair. Okay, so that's fine. And then I believe I got a teeny piece of this, which now this is going to kind of be a little bit of overkill. So maybe we'll grab just a little bit. I have a little teeny piece here of old olive left over from before. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flag each end. So just pretty shallow. And then I'm going to cut it in half. And then we probably have to cut this down just a little bit. One. Cut this down just a little. Just neaten this up a smidge. Okay, so then you can kind of add this to it if you wanted to. We can trim this down a smidge if you'd like as well. So we'll just put this on and see what this looks like. And it might not look like too much now, but sometimes once you add the rest of everything to it, it kind of ends up looking super adorable. So I'm going to set this here. And I'm going to go back and trim just a smidge, because I don't want these little pieces hanging. So I'm going to just go back and trim that off. Same on that side. And one more. Okay, so that's cute. We'll leave it just like that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just take the edge of this, because I know I had a little bit of granny apple green, and we'll just sponge the edge. Okay, so there is that. So I'm also going to, while I'm at it, add some dimensionals to the back of this. Just put 3, 1, 2, oops, 3. So I'm just going to set this on the side. Okay, so now the only other thing I have really is just to punch out the pterodactyl, and then we're going to kind of decorate the inside. So since this is pineapple punch, I'm going to just add, again, I have my little flower line, and this was from the Wiggle Worm. Pop that over there. So I'm going to add this in, and I'm going to stick with, since I've done it, I'm going to stick with the granny apple green. And all I did for this is kind of started over on the end, and then I just kind of slightly lined it up. It isn't exact, but somehow it managed that you can get 3 of them almost precisely in there. So that worked out pretty well. So that was granny apple green. And then if you wanted to, we could add, since we have the pterodactyl, I'll add this little guy instead. So this is kind of like the little wings of the pterodactyl. So we'll just add a few of these up here. And I'm going to go with the pineapple punch. So I'll just put a couple of these. And I'm going to do one the opposite way. Just for funsies. There we go. So just to like a little bit of added something to the inside. You could always write something in there. You could add another greeting inside if you'd liked. So there is that. Then we will go ahead and add our, where did I hear it is? My DSP. So you can have this go whichever direction you like. So since the eggs are up and down, I'm going to attempt to put this on up and down like that. So we're going to see if this fits. So I'm going to just put a little bit of Tombow. And the reason I tend to use Tombow, oops, I got a goopy cluster there at the bottom, is because that way, in case it's not exactly where you want it, you can go ahead and move it around just a smidge. And I want to get that goopy spot off. So now I'm going to go ahead and add this to my base. Just like so. That way it kind of gives you the edge if you want to line it up a little bit. You can move it around a smidge. Anything just like that. And I want to show you one other thing that I did. I cut a whole bunch of these out at the same time. But when I got to the end of my paper, this one was at a line. So I just made this one have a line on the bottom. So it was kind of like a flat egg. So I didn't do anything crazy on that. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add just a little teeny bit of, and I probably should have done this ahead of time, but.
You know where my bathing suit is?
I'm going to add a little bit of glue to that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you these pieces here. So I have some of this. So this is the one piece that I'm going to add down. So I'm going to kind of smush this down in here.
Do you know where my bathing suit is?
I'm sorry, guys. Excuse me one second. Why don't you just grab a new one?
Okay.
Okay. All right. So part of this stuck much better when I used the snail. So definitely use the snail because you'll get that immediate adhesion that you would want. All right. And also because I have glue on my fingers. So I'm going to show you what I did for this, just to get these little shreds. So basically, I'm going to take this piece here, And I'm going to snip this so I can show you from the start. Okay, so this has the one little connector piece in it. So what you could do is you could take this, if you wanted to, you could kind of bundle it together with something if you'd liked. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put, see if I can get just a little bit of this in here. There you go. That's good enough. Just so you can kind of see what I mean. So I'm going to fold this and kind of press this in. Oh. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab, just because I have one here easy, I'm going to grab another dimensional and just push it down on that for now. But basically what you want to do is if you put a little bit of, and you'll see when you turn it over, you can kind of spread this all out. If you put a little bit of snail down, it'll make it really easy for you to be able to adhere this a little bit better. And then you kind of move it around. There you go. But basically what I did to get started with this, so when this comes, you know, this is how it comes when you unroll it. So what I did was I kind of started fiddling with the edge of it, and you can kind of start pulling on it, and you will notice that it starts to kind of gather at one end. Okay, if you can see that. That's fine. So you kind of just keep pulling until you get it as long as you want it to be. And then what I did was I kind of took my paper snips and I kind of slid that one edge out just a little bit. It's going to have this little piece. This is the kind of piece that actually holds it together. And then you can keep pulling this as much as you want it, and then you can snip it. So I'm not going to snip anymore since I already have it, but you do the same thing with the denim. So if you have the denim, you kind of just pull till you get to the edge, and you can use your scissors to get it started. Just kind of pull. And with the denim ribbon, it does have a little bit better of an attachment. So what I kind of did was I went into the edge and just nipped it a little bit and then kind of spread it out. And then once you break it up, you'll see you can pull this piece out. And then it does the same thing as the last one did. It'll start to come apart. The other thing you can do to get this started, which I did in the beginning, was I kind of did some vertical cuts in here and pulled it out. And then it pulled out pretty easily that way as well. But I did get a fairly good amount of ribbon. Once you get it started, it's really, really easy. And then when you're finished with it, the great part is all you have to do is just snip it off and you're completely done. So let me just show you one more little pull spot here. I promise you, I'm making this look much harder than it actually is. It is really, really simple. There you go. So then all you do is just continue pulling these pieces, and you'll see they start coming out really, really easily. So just like that, and then you can pull it off. Okay, so the only other thing you're going to do then is you're going to just cut your pterodactyl. So I'm going to just kind of trim mine around just so I only get that guy. We'll run him through the big shot, and then that will be it. So these do line up really simply. So all you're going to do is just line it up. You could use a little piece of Post-it tape if you want to make sure that you keep it exactly in place. Ooh, whoopsie. And just like so. Just like that. Okay, and you'll see it comes out super nicely. Okay, just like that. So the other thing is too, just as a little note, you know, someone else mentioned this before. I believe Gail O'Neill did, if you watch her. She has all these little dinosaurs with the shapes. So there's some kind of coming and going. don't get rid of these little pieces, because you could always add this to your card, like this little bird is flying out of the scene, this guy's walking out of the scene. There's so many extra things that you could do with these things. They're definitely worth cutting and keeping. That way you can kind of put them together and make them look like you have a little bit more extra something or other to your card. All right, so all I'm going to do now, last thing, is we're going to go ahead and pull, I'll do that with this one. We're going to pull the backings off of our dimensionals. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put him, I'm just going to kind of eyeball because I don't have it quite where I want it to be yet, because I do still have to put that pterodactyl in. You can always put look who's hatched across the bottom here. And now that I think about it, I think just with looking at this card, because I did this one on the fly, I think I would have added, just to make it stick out more, just a teeny bit of this peacock. Let's see if I have a small scrap. No, gosh, I love the peacock so much. I don't have any small scraps, but I'm going to cut one just because I think it's going to kind of make it stick out just a smidge. So I'm just going to kind of eyeball this. Okay, so just like that. And then I think if we layer this onto this, it's going to make it look super adorable. So I'm going to go ahead and just trim this. I'm going to do the same thing again. So I'm going to cut just a little in the middle. That wasn't even in the middle. Okay, see what this looks like. Super cute. I just like the finished look of that. And then I'm just going to put some snail on this since I already have dimensionals. All right, so we have that. Now we just need to get our pterodactyl in there somewhere. I'm going to put him down flat as well. And I'm going to make sure whatever I do with this would cover him. Yeah, that looks pretty cute, just like that. So I'm going to just give this a press, push him down as well. Got all these little dudes down here. We can add our look who's hatched. You could even put this at the top if you wanted to. One other thing I cut out, and I had a few more of these, but I used a couple. These are just the little leaves that are in the dinosaur bundle as well that you can cut out. So they have a stamp and a leaf. So I'm going to just kind of add this behind here just for a little bit of something. I'm going to put a little bit of snail on the back. Kind of slide him in under there as well. And then we have our little ribbon. You kind of move this around a little bit on the side if it's not sticking out enough. I know kind of more one side than the other, but then you have your little, you can close the lid on your egg, and absolutely adorable. One thing though was I did stamp this the opposite direction. So now this is going to be a vine that's growing up, which is no problem whatsoever. So all I'm going to do is, again, I did this in Granny Apple Green. So I'm just going to take the fine tip of my pen, and what I'm going to do is just put a little something down here at the bottom. Just like that. And then you can draw out a couple other little somethings. And when you do your card, just make sure that you stamp it across the bottom instead. But just like that. And then if you wanted to, you could certainly add in the flowers. But super cute cards. Kind of a play again on, you could either use one as look who's hatched, or like you're hatching and you're celebrating your birthday again. Again, when you do buy the dinosaur bundle and the bundle, which is the stamp set and the die, you do save 10%, or you can get the suite, which you only have to type in one number. You get one of everything, and you do still get a little bit of a discount. Cool tip, just in case you never saw this, with this little scrap, these are absolutely adorable. Great new use for your ribbon. If you maybe don't have something to do with it, or you don't really know what to do with it, you can do it with almost any of these ribbons. So again, these were two different ones. This is the peacock ribbon, and then this was the denim. So, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you learned something new and had at least a fun time while you were here. If you'd like to get any of these supplies and more, I would love for you to shop my online store, which is open 24/7. You can shop in your pajamas or your ball gown, and you can find me at rachthestamper.stampinup.net. Thanks for watching, guys, and have an amazing day.